Ladies and gentlemen, their souls and the souls of all the faithfully departed, especially our veterans in Illinois, rest in peace. Amen. Representative Stevens.
Mr. Speaker, if I may. A wonderful tradition that you were all a part of. That we give the families what we promised them to remember. And now these names are forever a part of American history, our history here in Illinois. And these families lose their son or daughter. They come here, many of you recognize them with a resolution. And when the families come during those times, I try to go in the gallery to meet with them, just to let them know how much you and I care. And it's always a tough trip up those stairs. There's a lot of sorrow. And the families, they've always got a couple of questions. Why? And was it worth it? The sorrow that they feel helps me answer those questions as to why and whether it's worth it. I'm reminded of a poem, I believe by Browning. I walked a mile with pleasure and she chatted all the way, but I was none the wiser for all she had to say. And I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she, but oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me. I have been proud to serve my country, and I'm prouder yet to serve with you. I look across the aisle, I see some farmer soldiers. I see Linda Chaplevia, a fine young woman whose life would have certainly been complete without her service to the military. But yet she heard the call. She heard that distant trumpet's call, and she answered it. My good friend Al Riley, paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne. Tough soldier to take care of himself. He told me that when he was a young paratrooper, he took a great deal of pleasure. He was in perfect shape. He could dunk a basketball. I said, well, I was in perfect shape too. I could touch the net. I think of my friend Jim Watson on this side of the aisle. Wasn't good enough to go once to war, but indeed went again. Left this chamber to go serve his nation again. They heard the trumpet's call. One more example, Mr. Speaker, if I might. My good friend Jim Sation, who gave 7 years of his life to the United States Army. He was an enlisted man, worked his way up to staff sergeant, and he was really a good soldier. And they made him a lieutenant. They sent him to Officers Candidate School. He heard the trumpet's call. And I will tell you, I got to know Jim very well. And he will go to his grave after 7 years of serving in the United States Army, giving it all, leading young men. He thinks he didn't do enough. That's the sort of men and women that serve their nation. That's the sort of men and women we honor today. That sorrow that we see in the faces of families helps me answer the question, was it worth it? We have metaphorically walked behind the caisson that carried these young soldiers to their resting place. And we walk that mile in sorrow. When they leave this earth, it is my belief, Mr. Speaker, if I'm ever lucky enough to even from a distance see the gates of heaven, I know I visualize a long line and I'm in the back. And slowly proceeding to that gate, God calls those soldiers, those boys and girls forward first. And I visualize on the other side of that gate, literally, the arms of God, wrapping his arms around those children the way any father would, saying, well done, and welcome home. It was worth it. God bless them all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's my man.
Representative David Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The men of the 114th Illinois Infantry that presented this flag presentation today are members of but one regiment of Illinois militia that fought so bravely going back to the Civil War. If you go back and do a little bit of history, you will find that Illinois contributed more soldiers to the Union cause than any other state in this nation. If you go to Vicksburg, one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War, you will find a large monument there, the largest at the Vicksburg battlefield, to the soldiers of the state of Illinois who died at that battlefield. Those soldiers fought for an ideal. Those soldiers fought for human equality. Those soldiers fought for the protection and preservation of the Union, this nation which we hold so dear. Unfortunately, so many other Illinois soldiers have over the years fallen on foreign battlefields. And unfortunately, because of our foreign commitments, more will probably fall on foreign battlefields. But we do them an honor by remembering them here in this chamber. We remember their service. We remember what their families have done. We remember the ultimate measure that they have given. We can be proud of what they have done as Illinois citizens, and we are justifiably sad that we have lost them.
Ladies and gentlemen, will stand in silence for their own thoughts for a moment.